Yes, you are. Thank you. So we send this recording out. I try to remember to send it out after on Tuesdays or Wednesdays with the following week's agent mindset itinerary. If you have feedback, questions during this call, we ask that you use the reaction button or the more button at the bottom of your screen and raise your hand. That way we're not trying to talk over other people. So just a little housekeeping. So this week we're going to start with building a business plan for 2023. A stat I learned, well, it was 2 weeks ago now, that sales in your business is going to be down about 15 to 20% lower than what it's been the last couple of years. So one of the things, and I was guilty of it very early on, and I don't know about Brad or anybody else, but I built my original business plan for where I wanted to be, like how many homes I wanted to sell or what I wanted that dollar value to be. And I was on a business planning meeting, and one of the things they suggested was to figure out where you're at with your expenses and how much money you want to make at the end of the year and put that number in and then build your business plan backwards. So I'm going to share a couple things with you guys, and we can talk about how we're business planning and what we're doing. Because I think there's a lot of value into planning now to really set yourself up for 2023. So the first screen I'm going to share is two quick little graphs. Some of you may have seen them, some may not. But this top one right here is home sales and how it's trended over the last 9 years now. As we can see, 21 through 2022 was kind of an outlier, right? It's kind of like golf. When we have a golf handicap, Brad, do you have a question? Can you see my screen?
Yes, I do. I just couldn't remember. I've seen this. You showed me this chart. We talked about this chart. Was this Wisconsin, though, or is this national?
National.
Okay,
It's
so make sure.
And it's actually from National Association of Realtors. I think that's the site I found it on.
Okay.
It's kind of like golf. We always take our outliers out of the equation. So you can see where things will probably normal back out at, right? In that middle area right there. And then same thing for interest rates, right? Interest rates they peaked and then they went down, and then they're probably going to peak and then ideally come back down. So what are we doing to kind of build our plan for next year? And I'm going to share this with you. And this is something that was shared with me. And then I kind of built it out a little farther and what I'm going to do for 2023. And if anybody wants this, I'll make a copy of this and send it to you. But, I put total take home. That's what I want to take home after taxes. So all of these numbers are based after taxes. I put myself in the 28% tax bracket, what a seller commission, buyer commission looks like, average sale price of a house. And then if your team gets a split or if you're a flat fee, you can put that in here. And then I'll tell you, if your business is 25% seller side and 75% buyer side. So because I'm newer back into the game, I'm going to be working with more buyers than probably sellers for the next couple of years, and that's okay. So that's how my business, and then I kind of broke it down on where that business is going to come from over the next year. And then what I want to do each month to get to my total of 41 total transactions. So when I originally did this, I did it as saying, okay, I want to sell, $10 million in total sales. What's that look like? But I didn't quite understand where it was all coming from. So, I built this platform out to show where it's coming from and how I'm going to do it. Well, then I did, the next part is, what am I going to do to get there? So, I'm starting, and I'm testing it right now, but I'm going to do 10 CMAs a week to my farm. And what I'm doing is I'm sending them a couple, postcards or letters first, and then I'm going to send them a CMA. Because I think that is one way I can help build my local business. But you kind of use this page to set up your annual growth plan and like what you're going to do, if you're going to do webinars or community events or use social media to get more followers. That's one of my big goals for this year is 10,000 followers by end of next year. It's probably a very unrealistic goal, but it's something that I feel like I can do a better job at. And then it gives you some like key initiatives and metrics on how you're going to do it on a weekly, daily basis, weekly, monthly. And then quarterly rocks. Some people call them rocks. Some people call them like long-term business opportunities for you to develop. So you put them in there Q1 through Q4. Next thing I added was a calendar for my marketing. So one of the things I think we struggle at times is holding ourselves accountable. So I did this to kind of say, okay, each day on Mondays, we have agent mindset, need to update social. We do a podcast in the morning, social post, market update, and then what I need to do each day from there. So, and I'm just kind of breezing through this, guys. If you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand or blurt it out loud. This right here is for my content for my social, for Instagram and Facebook. Like, if you ever get stuck, okay, what am I going to talk about for home buyer education? Well, I talk about credit repair, or I can talk about the buying process. And then same thing with like digital mayor. That's being the voice of your town, what local events are going on, what's going on in the neighborhood, upcoming events, local news, city projects, things like that. I added beer, wine, cheese, and bourbon because I love all four of those things. So I think being relevant when I do this is also it makes it fun, right? It's not as much work. And then the one I added in that was a little bit different is Homes for Heroes. One of our, I would say, key initiatives this year is to help more people that fall underneath that category, such as teachers, military, medical field, firefighters, and police department. Granted, for those that know Homes for Heroes, there's a commission split that goes back to the program, but that money, a large part of it goes back to that hero after closing. So I really like that concept of that. And then an annual rundown, what you're doing each month. I also added on here what I'm going to be doing for farming. So in January, I'm going to do a donation drive to my farm, which is about 100 houses in my small little neighborhood. I'm going to go around, door knock, hand out a letter, and say, hey, I'm going to be taking either clothing donations or food donations for whatever, to replenish the local Love Inc. or whatever it might be. And then weekly content. This is where you hold yourself accountable. You can see this, if it's blacked out, it's suggesting you don't do it that week, but that's what you should be doing each day. 4 posts a day is the average, is what they're suggesting. And then how you hold yourself accountable in January. Now, this is a work in progress for me, but I wanted to share it with you guys because I thought it was a great way to be front of mind and kind of use it as a tool to plan for 2023 and then, and then go from there. So what questions do you have? Brad?
Can you go back to the, I think it was on your weekly content success formula?
This one?
Yeah. You said the blacked out. So value exchange plug.
Yeah. So like here, if you're going to say, great example is we have that seller packet through Canva.
Yeah.
Say, offer that, and in return, they're going to hit you up or reach out to you for that value exchange or something. Or if they want to hear more about Homes for Heroes, or lender has an ARM program, something like that.
I just more like, I didn't understand. I never understood I've obviously seen this already, but the Y's fourth, those are weeks, week 1, week 2.
No, the goal is you're going to get 28 posts. There's 7 days a week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the idea is you're going to post a little heavier earlier in the week because obviously by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're not really going to want to be doing posting.
So why is 4, 5, and 6 blacked out on that one?
Because you're offering their value exchanges, say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Got it. So you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Correct. For value exchange, but you might be doing. You see how personal and relatable is almost in digital mayor.
6 days a week.
Yeah, 6 to 7 days a week.
Correct.
Because you want to offer the value more as a non-agent than just an agent.
Makes sense. Right? Okay. I just want to kind of.
No, good question. Good question. So I'm happy to share this with others. So I guess my question is, what else is others doing for their 2023 business planning? Are we, what are we doing to kind of set yourselves up for next year? Because obviously it's going to be a trying year for many of us, but what are we doing to make ourselves successful?
Who has a business plan? I'd ask that first. Ryan does. Janice does. You can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand either way. Who does? Okay, so I think most do. Who does not have a business plan of any kind? Jeopardy.
So I don't know. I'll ask a question better yet. I guess, I posted yesterday, I think it was, doing that 1% of that the other 99% won't do. I guess, what are you guys doing different this coming year that you're hoping you're going to be able to drive business with? What's that 1% that we're going to do that's a little bit different? Like for us, it's going after the Homes for Heroes. And really once a month, I'm going to go to fire departments and maybe buy, firefighters lunch, or dropping off donuts at the, man, that was about to sound really stereotypical, donuts at the police station, whatever it might be, right? What are we going to do that's going to be just that 1% different than what we did last year to hopefully drive more business? I'm also going to be hitting my farming area a lot harder. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I'm going to be focusing the farm, my direct neighborhood and all that sort of stuff. And then my big one is focusing on like open houses again. Extremely lazy just the past couple of years with not needing them, and just they list and sell. So trying to get a couple more open houses and work on some strategies to help convert those leads more into not just putting up a sign an hour before, but doing some pre-prospecting ahead of time, so there's more awareness and gathering some more leads ahead of that.
I like it. Who else doing something different that is going to try to implement something new for 2023 that is hoping is going to have even a minor impact on your business? Brad?
Well, I have a comment and a kind of a question, because when at the start you had referenced about, because of the market, the agents may see like a 15% decrease.
Yep.
And they should factor that into business plans. There's a couple caveats and we talked about this last week, you and I, where I would not you shouldn't factor a decrease in. If you're new to the industry, or if you're coming, like maybe you're in the industry and coming back in industry, is the industry really going to affect you? Because you didn't really have anything to go by, so you should really see growth. I had a little bit of something, so basically I didn't work the first quarter last year, very much. So this year my numbers are less than they normally would have been from a direct production standpoint. Now I'm going to ramp my direct production back up next year. That's intentional. So I'm going to show growth. So just when you guys are doing the planning, I like that 15%. I think it's something people should be conscious of, because I think you got to take the factor of what the industry is probably going to do. But I think the industry is for probably agents that have been in it. I always like to use the 5 years plus to be like an industry standard, because for a lot of us it takes at least 2, 3, 4, 5 years to really solidify yourselves. Plus, for those average homeowner, depending on age and things like that, 5, 7, you hear 5 to 7, 7 to 10 years average home ownership. So that repeat cycle. So just take that into consideration. And then for me, kind of like what I'm going back to something like I used to dominate FSBOs and expires, probably it's probably as high as 6 to 10 deals when I really focused on it, kind of like open houses. And I'm going to go back into that this year, because expires is really difficult the last several years because nothing was expiring, because everything was selling. And then FSBOs were kind of difficult because a lot of success you have with for sale by owners is creating that perception. It's not really a perception, it really is a reality, but getting that for sale by owner to realize how much work our jobs are to do it right, to maximize your value, to make sure you don't get sued, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to refocus back on some things that were harder the last few years. Not that I didn't do them, but refocus. And actually open houses is one of mine too. Like I'm going to do I'll probably do more open houses this next year than I've probably done the last 3 years combined, just because, well, it's a great time to do open houses again. And it's a great resource. So I'm kind of doing a little bit what Ryan's doing, where my business plan is going a lot back to some stuff that's been hard to be successful at. And then my other focus is always my database. There's so many great ways to succeed in your database. So that's what I'm doing different, or I guess it's different, but old.
Good. Gonna expand on it. Yes. Anybody else want to share what they want to do, that their goal is? Go ahead, Christy.
So I'm not gonna lie, I have never actually done any kind of planning, being new. I mean, but now I've got a full year in, so I'm kind of liking what you guys are talking about. And I liked your little graph that you had, your little Excel sheet. If you want to send that to me, that would be awesome. So, I mean, I definitely want to farm more, because I really didn't do a lot of it. There's a lot I didn't do. So I'm going to be doing a lot of things different this year, but I definitely want to do some more farming, because I really kind of blew that off. And I want to try to go after expireds, because there's actually a lot of them out there. So.
Right.
Yeah, there are.
Oh, yeah, good.
Christy, when Vince sends it over to you, if you want, I probably spend the last 2 to 3 months. I know Vince is the same. I know a few other people on this call. A lot of times, and I'm speaking from success here, and other clients that I coach and stuff, that a lot of times you do a business plan, then you never look at it again. So I like this spreadsheet format because it's got some of those tabs in there, like the trackings of the social media, which I had some questions on, the graphs. It's got some accountability things, so that when you put something down that you're going to do, it's not just like a plan and forget it, but it keeps you accountable. But if you want some help walking through that's got a lot of detail to it. And if you've never really done one before, I know I'd be happy to, and I'm sure Vince would be happy to kind of have a couple of one-on-ones discussions with you on it.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, please don't turn that down, because I did that stuff when I first started business planning. My biggest mistake was I do the plan, and then all of a sudden it'd be June and be like, well, what's your plan? What was your plan this year? I'm like, I don't know. I did one and never looked at it again. So
yeah.
So learn from my dumbass mistakes and take the offer. And I just offered up Vince's time as well, but I know he'll do it. So
thanks. Hey, Vince, I have a question about the social media.
Yeah.
So I thought I read somewhere that if you post too much, that you actually will, like, I don't even know how to really word all of it, with like your algorithm and everything, it all goes down.
So I sat in on a call with Lauren Taylor. She's one of the #1 Instagram, and she's on Instagram and TikTok, I think it is. I know it's Instagram. And it's Facebook is one area that you don't want to do a lot on Facebook. It's more your reels and your stories, because the idea is to get people to, and that's really what's trending right now is reels and stories, right? Like people want that 30-second information or 10-second information. And the goal is just to get more followers. The more followers you have, the more you're going to be in front of them. So it's like, according to her, and then also I was on our other call, Brad, that you were on, they talked about YouTube and really driving your YouTube business. And I was really surprised by, what they said on that. It's like, don't do YouTube videos on your listing. Make sure you're offering information. So I think the biggest difference is to have a variety. Like what Lauren told us was, don't just do real estate, because eventually they're going to stop they're going to stop scrolling through it. They're going to stop watching it, things like that. And therefore it's going to drive you in the wrong direction. So you want to add value. And that's why there's the 7 or 8 different things on the side that, okay, you know, give a plug about a local event or talk about something personal. So really that's what doesn't screw up the algorithm. That's what kind of keeps it all normal, because you have such a big variety. Now, if you just did real estate or something, you know, house related or things like that, that's what's going to drive you downwards. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Well, I mean, because I know even if I post anything more personal other than real estate, I get way more reactions and comments out of that than if I post something real estate.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's actually, and I know Vince, you probably know more on this than I do at this point, but regarding the algorithms too, I don't know if you ever noticed, like people that you engage with, Christy, you see more of their stuff.
Right.
That's what you're trying to do, because the more people engage with you, the more often they see your stuff because they've engaged with. That means that's what Facebook and Instagrams they read is they will keep showing you the stuff that you're showing interest in.
Right. Yeah.
So you're right. I always tell people, okay, we got to post our real estate stuff. I share a little bit from our business page to my personal page, but I do most of my personal stuff or charitable stuff or just community stuff. Of course, I do it from the business page, but that's what I mostly share my personal page, because that's what people care about. I always have this running joke, like if you don't know what to post about charity, puppies, and babies, because everybody likes that stuff. It gets people's attention. Case in point, I was walking my new puppy through the Loop this weekend at a Kris Kringle Mart. I mean, probably nobody will remember me, but they remember the puppy.
Yep.
And that puppy had more attention than anything, so it was crazy.
And you know, I'll add one more comment to that, then I'm gonna let Ryan go. If Ryan, you still have something? Yeah, okay. Is to also with that, I don't know if you noticed on that daily spreadsheet, or was it the weekly content? It says to follow 10 new Instagrams and comment on 20 posts. So to Brad's point, you know, the more people you follow, and then if you're commenting on, even if it's you know, I totally agree with this, or here's my opinion, or even just liking something, it then puts you in front of them again. So then they're going to see more of your content. So yeah. All right, go ahead, Ryan.
In terms of the business plan, one thing, it's kind of a longer term business plan, but Kalen, he turned me onto this book. It's called The Golden Handoff. And so I'm going through that now and trying to implement some strategies on buying businesses of retiring realtors and people that are looking to get out of the business. Because I think we'll see, at least in our market, I think we'll see a number of agents starting to kind of retire as things have shifted over the past couple of years.
Right. Kalen's not retiring anytime soon, is he?
I hope not.
No, sir.
How you doing, buddy? Well, let's go into farming, because I know. So we're gonna touch on farming, and then we're gonna go into FSBOs and expireds, because Christy and Stephanie are on, and I know they want to talk about that. And you know, I know Brad talked about going after expired, so I think it's a great opportunity to really share some ideas. But let's go into farming. Ryan, and I'm going to pick on you because I know it's something you want to do in this coming year. What is that plan for farming? Let me ask you first question, because I have a number in my head. How many houses, or how big is the area you're looking to farm?
So I've been mailing postcards to them already. And I mail out 500 postcards. That's kind of the larger farm. And then the more direct farm that I'm going to do some things with, like that's like the subdivision I live in, kind of like yours is, like I think it's 220 houses, and we already do things as a subdivision, like food trucks. We did a movie night thing, and there's gonna be more of those. So I'm gonna just get more interactive with that, and my big one is to help plan, because we haven't done this yet, but do like an actual like block party, and kind of organize and plan that. So
with your farming, do you have a schedule set up? you have like a monthly schedule? And I'll share my ideas here in a minute because this is going to be huge for me this year.
I don't yet. It will be. I have it in the business plan, and then I'm going through and writing it out in a calendar on when to mail what and when to start planning what and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. Christy, do you have something to add? Your hand's still up, or is that just from earlier?
Oh, no, it is still up.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's
No,
down.
that's okay. So the one thing I did this, and it's still going, it's reverse farming. Reverse farming I did with letters from Santa, and I shared it on my Facebook page for people to get a letter from Santa. And I mailed out my first, I think I had 18 of them that went out this past weekend. But it's an opportunity where parents fill out this Google sheet. Basically, I'm getting their information, name, address, email address, and then and their kid's name. Now, my wife, who's very conservative, was like, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable giving my child's name to some stranger. The idea is I'm not necessarily doing it for people that don't know me as much as I would do it for, a Brad or, my friends that maybe I don't have their address on. Like one of my daughter's girlfriends, her parents filled it out for them, for their 4 kids. And so they're getting 4 of those letters from Santa, but just a great way to, once again, I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier. When it comes to social media, it's not always being about real estate, being about how we can help support our community and whatever it might be. So my farm's out about, I think it's 104 homes within about probably about a 1.5 mile radius, or 1.5 miles. And so I do have a schedule for mine now. So in May, gosh, I wish it was May, I'd be golfing. January, I'm going to do the donation drive, right? And then in April and May, one of the cool things that I heard about was someone rented a 40-yard dumpster, put it in their driveway, and then went around, the week before, 2 weeks before, said, hey, it's going to be donuts, donations, and dumpster. So she sent out flyers to her neighborhood and said, hey, I'm going to have from 9 to 11 on Saturday. You can drop off donations and have a donut, or if you got stuff you want to throw out, you can throw it out. But I'll have a big dumpster so that you can get rid of it. And I was like, that's a really good idea. And it's a great way to, get in front of people, shake hands and whatnot. Another thing my daughter wants to do is a lemonade stand this summer. So we're going to set up a lemonade stand, and whatever proceeds we get from that, I'm going to donate to Veterans Outreach, because one of our big pushes, like I said earlier, this call is to help the veterans. So, I think it does one of two things. A, for the kid, it teaches them about donating and doing things for others, and then also kind of gets in front of all of our neighbors. Are a couple of things. And the other thing I want to do is obviously food drives, but also want to do Christmas tree pickup next January. So this is how far we're looking at, right? Is sending out flyers saying, hey, I'm going to pick up your live Christmas tree and get rid of it for you. Make sure it's on the curb on Saturday, and we'll get rid of it. But especially during the holiday season, if you can do a food drive, a clothing drive, a coat drive, right? Something like that, great way to do it. So who else has farming ideas? Because I think we all think of farming as sending out postcards, right? And just stay in front of mind with them. So other farming ideas. Ryan, you got another thing? You forgot to leave your hand up.
No, I had a follow-up to your donations, donuts, and dumpster. So when you're talking donations, are you getting like a Goodwill truck there, or are you taking the stuff to Goodwill, Salvation Army, something like that?
Yeah, I'll take the stuff to Love Inc. So I'll empty out the garage, and we can stack it in the garage. And if I have to make 4 or 5 trips or whatever it is, I mean, if it's a huge hit the first time, then maybe a box truck the next time I do it would be a better idea. But I don't want to spend a whole lot of money, and I think a 40-yard dumpster for us is about $300. So I figured, it's probably $400 or $500 that I'm going to have to spend between donuts, probably coffee or juice, walking, hand delivering mailers. The idea is I'm going to hand deliver all these mailers too, because if you can be in front of them and say, hey, introduce yourself, it makes it a little more, relevant to them on who's doing it and why you're doing it.
You could actually do something here too with the donation portion, where you could actually raise money for like a favorite cause of yours. Don't get me wrong, you could pocket the money too, and I'm not saying you shouldn't take a little bit, because what I'm about to propose will take some time. So you should maybe keep some of it for like expenses in your time. I don't think it's wrong at all, but on the donations, what's one of Gary Vee's famous things? He talks about people go buy stuff at garage sales and resell it on eBay and Amazon. Put stuff back online, sell it, and then turn around and take a good portion and go donate it to your charity. And then let the people know, hey, just so you know, the stuff you donated, I sold. Here was the proceeds, and I'm going to take this and give this to this charity. Yeah. So that's just again, I'm not saying it to be like you should just merely profit from this, but you should at least take enough that compensates you for your time and any expenses you're going to do along with that, because you're going to have to ship the stuff or whatever. But what a cool thing to raise extra money for charity too.
Right. So what other farming ideas so what else are you thinking for farming, Ryan? I'm curious do you have other ideas in mind on how to get, besides, I like the community or the party thing.
Instead of not a food drive, but come probably end of July, August, like a school supply drive, because there's always the teachers need this, for the classroom. So coordinating and then being a collection point for that, and then, taking them to the actual schools.
I like that. Like that's a great one for end of the summer thing. Just trying to see what else was on my other one.
I should pull up my business plan.
No, the other one I even thought of too was we don't have a real big neighborhood. We get about maybe 30 kids now, but doing some type of, as the kids come through, a Halloween contest for them. Maybe we take a Polaroid picture and post it, or some type of marketing thing for when they come through. Obviously it's an opportunity to put candy in their bag, but what if you did like had beers with koozies, your koozie and your logo on it, and gave it to the parents as they came through, right? Another great way to get in front of the parents, be like, hey, I'm thinking of you too, here, buddy. Here's a spotted cow. I like the school supply drive. Any other ideas for farming? What has worked, what hasn't worked? The one tool that I recently looked into, price wise it wasn't bad, is called Yellow Letters. I don't know if anybody's heard of them. Yellow Letters, basically they look like handwritten letters on yellow notepad. And it looks really cool. Like they put a post-it, you can get it to where they put a post-it note on it that says call me. And they personalize it too. So it'll have the person's name, their address. You can also they'll also do a value proposition in there for what they think their home would sell for. Obviously it's probably like a Zillow estimate or something, but Yellow Letters I like because it stood out a little more than me typing up a small little letter or something like that. So there's another thing that could use as part of your farming prospecting. And I think it's like $1.75 per letter or something. You have to commit to a minimum of 100 letters over the course of the year. So it's not that bad when you think about the work that it goes into those. So any other suggestions, ideas for farming? No. Let's go into FSBOs and expireds, because I know this is going to be a hot topic. And if we have time, we'll get into charging a transaction fee, because I know Brad's interested to hear who's charging the transaction fee. And by the way, that's his cute little new puppy.
Hello.
What's the dog's name again?
That's Macy. My Macy. Yeah, I know. She's my new bestie.
All right. Brad, I'm going to have you take over FSBOs and expireds because I know you love them.
I do. I love FSBOs and expired. So, I don't know what.
Well, let's
Let me open up
let-
for questions first. What questions?
let's start here. What platform do you use for FSBOs and expireds?
So I've used for probably 6 or 7 years now. As far as my dialing, I use Vulcan 7. So Vulcan 7 pulls for you expired listings out of the MLS. You can put in as many zip codes as you want, and that's in your MLS, so that you're getting as many leads as you want. I definitely have mine set to go outside my primary area. I have zip codes for my primary and secondary area, and then also canvases, Craigslist, used to do Zillow. We can't, Wisconsin residents cannot, of course, list their for sale by owners on Zillow anymore. So, and it also pulls in your for sale by owners. So you got them all there in a nice, easy bucket. You can sort them by zip code. You can sort them by city. You can do a mileage radius, however you want to do, newest to oldest. So, because I think there's strategies on prospecting to older expireds versus newer expireds that can impact your scripts and stuff like that. So I've been using Vulcan 7. It's really good. It is a CRM, and then usually, I make multiple attempts. So anybody that's done expires will tell you, as far as prospecting, the sweet spot is probably for those that aren't responding to you, or about your 5th or 6th attempt. And then total, if you use combinations of emails, if you have email addresses, which Vulcan 7 will give you email addresses. It will give you phone numbers, and of course, it has the address. It can be up to 8 attempts. And I know Vince loves this stat because he's a little bit of a stat guy. Like, what is it? 70% of agents don't make more than 2 attempts, is it?
2 attempts.
Yeah. And then it's like 25% of that will even attempt after that. So you're talking 25% of 25%, whatever that is. The mathematicians can figure that out. We'll actually make that 5th, 6th, 7th attempt to get a hold of somebody. So, again, wasn't a big focus of mine last year, probably the year before that, just because it was tough. And there weren't a lot of expireds popping up in there anyway. And the ones that were, I was running into weird circumstances of why they took it off the market. Usually it was a change of decision. Like, no, we've just decided not to sell. Okay. And I've maintained a few of those for long-term nurtures because I got into good conversations with them. So first of all, is organizing how you're going to do it. I have tabs created. So every time I make calls, if I grab 50 numbers to call, I then put those contacts in a first attempt call. Any of those I get a hold of course, and we're going to a next step. I do a custom follow-up with that person. I move them over to our primary CRM. If they didn't answer, I left a voicemail, whatever it is. I just leave them in the call attempt, because then I know which ones I've called once. I know which ones I've called twice. So I have 8 folders, I have created. And then after that 8th time, if they don't answer, I'll be honest with you, I usually just give up after that. But really what you should do is export the list, send them over to your CRM, and a lot of CRMs now have what they call ponds. So I put them in a pond. So that's the primary thing I do, is you got to be organized. You got to be diligent about following up on the calls. And then you can also get into other resources. Now, sticking on the calls, I've got some pretty locked in scripts. So if you guys never heard of Phil Jones, I think his middle initials M, I believe, Phil M. Jones. Check him out on YouTube. He talks about like prospecting and like the face-to-face meeting. He does a lot of that stuff as well. But Phil's really good. And I kind of was attracted to his method of sales, because I'm very consultative and I'm very question oriented. My goal is to always kind of get somebody's attention, trying to get their interest, build rapport with them, and then Phil calls it being empathetic. I call it being curious. You know, a lot of agents, they'll go to try and pitch the list, trying to get the listing just way too quick. So it's like, first question, I don't care if you're for sale by owner or if you're expired. You know, hey Vince, it's Brad, saw you just took your house off the market. Just curious, you know, you guys still have any interest in selling? Just wait for the answer. If he says yes, great. Well, what made you take it off the market though? Or start with, great, well, awesome. Well, I'd love to see if I can match you up with a buyer. Again, I don't say anything about listing it. I said, great, love to match you up with one of my buyers. I got a lot of buyers right now still looking. I'd love to see which ones I have in your price point. Hey, just curious, Vince, what are you going to do when you sell? Where are you going? I mean, that's to me, it's getting, you're starting to ask questions about them, their situation. By the way, it also, if they're going to buy and they're going to stay local, ding, 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 buyer representation, right? So you just might have picked up another lead. Then, but I continue to ask questions. So Phil has this thing, he says, you know, ask one question and then be curious and empathetic. And then he says, be brave. And then this be brave is usually, he's like, take what you've gathered as far as a bunch of personal information. So if you ever look at my scripts, I'm happy to share scripts with you guys. By the way, my scripts don't look like normal script. They don't have word for word questions because I find that if you start reading word for word sentences, you sound scripted and people won't like you. And you just don't sound genuine. So I write down one immediate question or statement. You have about 10 seconds to get their attention. And you got about 30 more seconds after that to keep it. Once you get through that initial 40 to 45 seconds, we'll call it, you're good. You can keep someone on the phone with you interested in talking to you for 45 seconds. That means you've asked good questions. You're learning about them. And then now I've had plenty that don't lead into immediate sales, but I've been really good over the years at make a connection. I keep in my CRM. They start getting my regular newsletters, whatever regular stuff I'm sending out. Occasionally I see their name. I call them up, say hi, whatever it is. And I get that business down the line. But the immediate ones, you've started to do something that most agents don't do. Most agents just go right for the listing. Are you going to interview more agents? When are you going to put it back on the market? I'd love to interview. I'll be honest with you, that especially the first time I talk to them, none of those things come out of my mouth. It's all about the buyer. It's about where they're going. It's about what they're doing. Hey, Vince, well, that's really cool. I'm glad you're still interested in selling. Sorry it didn't work out the first time, but it sounds like you still want to downsize because whatever, your house is too big, the kids are grown, whatever the situation. Before I bring 5 or 6 buyers through, I'd really like to bring maybe 1 or 2 through that fit. Never got a chance to see your home while I was on the market. Do you mind if I come take a look? I just want to get in the door. Because once I'm in the door, you got a lot more time face to face because you're at least committed to a tour. And most homes take, with a little description or whatever, 5 to 10 minutes to tour. So now you've got more time to, again, as Phil says, be brave, ask more questions. Also when I'm in the house, I always joke that if I walk in and they've got golf stuff everywhere, they're mine. They're my client, guarantee it. Whereas if it's, race car driver, musician, I have to take a little bit more of the inquisitive approach. Oh, tell me, that's really cool. They'll tell me a little bit more about that. It's more I'm just asking and learning, I've learned, like my veteran clients, I love my veteran clients. I was never in the military. My grandfather was, and my uncle was. My dad was not. I don't know a ton about the military, but I'm very appreciative. I always get my veteran people because, one, it helps me learn them. Yes, does it help me get them as a client? Absolutely it does. But they have really cool stories. I still have lunch about once every other month with one of the veteran clients who has some just really, really cool stories, and I love listening to it. And guess what? He also refers me anybody that wants to sell real estate or buy real estate. So it's exactly what we want, but we do that through, you have to strike that personal connection. So ask one question and then go from there. He always phrases it, Phil always phrases empathetic. I wish he'd actually say curious or empathetic, because that's what I'm really trying to be, is more curious. I'm empathetic if, I've done some sales in the last year where people were like 3-4 years behind their property taxes. They were facing foreclosure for that. Some estate sales where later in life, the home was really the asset, and they had the house, mortgaged to the hilt, unfortunately. So now it's just the family trying to get rid of the home without taking a loss, those types of things. That's empathetic stuff. But I'm learning those things from being curious. So, but you have to stay consistent, because people are afraid, those situations, people are afraid to talk about that stuff. So you have to be really just continue to be curious and learn. It's always questions about them. Vince, go ahead.
Question for you. It looks like Ryan has a question after that. I saw his hand barely going up. No, okay. So one of the things you mentioned very early on was older expired. Which one do you have more success with? An older expired or a newer expired? And if so, why?
Both. And here's why. I'm gonna give you guys my favorite script. The start of my favorite script. This line just works. If it's a newer, what happens to all expireds? All you fucking vultures, aka agents, start calling, emailing, dropping by, sending mail packages. What? Okay. So if it's a brand new expired, like within a couple of days, when I first thing I call him, like that, I'll use Vince as my scripting partner here, or my role play partner here. If I call Vince and I say, "Hey Vince, just saw you took the house off the market, or do you have any interest in still selling?" He just gives me some sort of indication. Just say, yeah, we might be willing, Vince.
If you're lucky, maybe.
Yeah, right. Awesome. Hey, well, I just want to give you a heads up warning. You're about to get a call, text, email, drop-bys, stuff in the mail from hundreds of agents. He's like, I've literally had people like, yeah, I've already had a few, if they're newer, right? Like, well, I'm just going to warn you right now, you're going to get a ton of calls. Now and they're going to all want to relist your house. Now, well, I would love to do that, but that's not why I'm calling. And then I go the buyer direction first. If you go the buyer direction, hey, let me place the buyer, let me come take a look at the house, blah, blah, blah. We just went through all that stuff, right? Get in the freaking house. Then you've got that. Now Vince is going to remember me. I mean, even if he says no right now. No, if you've got a for sure buyer, I'll let you tour. Otherwise, I'm in. Great. Tell you what, I'm going to go through my buyer pool. But Vince, before I got the phone with you, I saw your house a little bit when I was online. Hey, give me your top features about your house, like that you loved when you bought it.
Love the master bedroom, the pool for the kids, and the unfinished basement.
Okay, sweet. Thank you so much. All right. Because sometimes, the best thing that I can do is find you a buyer that loved the things that you liked about your house. And just so you and I know, what are the things you didn't really like about your house?
Oh, I do not like that. I do not have a double vanity in my master bathroom.
Okay.
And that we are on a busier than normal street, so the kids can't, walk down the street with the dog.
Okay.
And I wish I was 3 cars wide instead of a third car deep.
Okay. A couple of those are definitely things that would fit certain clientele. It's good for me to know. It also helps me narrow down, and I'll be able to mention those things, positives and negatives, to find a potential buyer. Now, I'm going to give you a call, the worst case, a week from now, just to let you know if I've got a buyer. Is that okay with you?
Yep, definitely.
Okay. So I just got permission to call him back. He's going to remember me because I made the first comment about and warned him. Now, when I call him back in a week, I'm going to ask him, how many people have called you since I last called? I'm guarantee you I'm going to get an answer like, oh my God, you guys are fucking vultures. I use the vulture one because I hear that one a lot for some reason. They always, this calls bull. Man, God, you guys are like used car salesmen. You guys are like vultures. Man, what the hell did you do? I know. I'm sorry. And I usually throw out the 80-20 line. Unfortunately, in this business, it's still the 80-20 rule. 20% of us do 80% of the work. and the rest of us are just trying to get by. I just say it. It's not really dogging anybody, and I'm not saying who's in the 20%, who's in the 80%. I'm just giving the guy some facts and being real with him and showing some empathy. Just reverse it. If it's an older script, I'll say, hey, Vince, you want to sell your house, blah, blah. He says, yes. I'll be like, hey, how many agents have called and asked to list your house? Holy crap, those answers are fun. And that's usually when the swear words come out. And I tell them, same thing. Great. So I'll let you know, I am an agent. I am not calling to list your house today. I'd like to make it easier on you. Let me see if I can find you a buyer. But before I even do that, I got a couple questions. Where are you going? Tell me what you like about your house. Tell me what you don't like about your house. I'm starting to get personal, right? If they open up the door and they start talking to me about golf on the phone, I'm sure I'm taking that. If they start talking about other stuff, I'll start asking questions. I just try to get personal as soon as we do business naturally with people we like. So as soon as they like me, I'm their agent. Now, if they happen to like another agent, that's when I get competitive and sometimes I lose. But that happens to all of us, right? So, all right, Ryan, you had a question or comment?
So A, do you ever mail anything? And then B, once you kind of get in the door, and you don't have a buyer, what's that conversation like?
The buyer, when I keep following up with that, when I asked him, I've called people back in a week like that and said, hey, just want to let you know, I don't have a buyer right now. And that's usually when I give them a statistic like, hey, my team and I, we typically bring on, we usually get 2 to 3 new buyers a week. So I'm just going to stay in touch and keep you informed. And then I always still continue to ask, hey, I still would love to get in the house. I know you gave me some great description, but, and by the way, gotten to know you, I'd love to meet you. You just keep it personal. So I keep trying to get in the house, but I just keep following up, and eventually if they listed before, if they're going to list, you don't even have to ask. I've had them just say, you know what, we're actually going to think about start listing this. Why don't you come over and take a look? Oh, okay. And at some point, we did really bad role playing there, but we were just trying to get a few points across. You do need to bring up like the difference between finding you a buyer and listing your home. Finding you a buyer is trying to find you a buyer, and you're trying to attract buyers. You can't control the buyers you attract. Listing is you're marketing a home. So there's differences there. I've had to explain that to people. And then your other question was, do I ever mail? I actually used to have a really cool 5 postcard process, and I'd have to dig deep into Canva to find them if they're still there. But I used to send it was either 5 postcards in 5 days or 5 postcards over 10 days. I played with that a little bit, but the first one was just the normal, like, hey, I saw your house was listed. Love to see if I could match up one of my buyers, something like that. Then like the second or third one were showing some successes we'd had with other expireds and getting them sold. Kind of, so when you're mailing, you can throw in some of the listing stuff. I remember my last one, because the point was I was sending these postcards really quickly. The last postcard, all it said really big on the front page was, imagine how hard I'd work to sell your home if I worked this hard just to get your attention. And it worked. I had some negatives one too. I had one lady, she had me an agent in Illinois. Well, does you asshole Illinois agents? Just kidding, right? I had one lady call me up. She's like, I'm an agent in Illinois. Boy, if I ever got those, stop mailing me. She owned a house in Wisconsin. I would never work with you. I said, okay, you just must not be a very good agent, because this works really well for me. I hung up the phone on her. Then she called my broker and chirped at him. And he backed me up. He's like, lady, we all do different things. That's his thing. It works. It's a fucking piece of mail. Throw it away. So But that's actually the worst one was another agent. That's hilarious. But otherwise, that worked. Because it kind of proves the point, right? Like, dude, I'm just trying to get your attention, man. Imagine if I actually wanted to sell your house, how hard it'd work, right? Kind of sends a message. So yes, I've done mailers. I've only done the postcard mailings. I've done never consistent enough to say I truly done it. I've done like the listing packets and stuff like that, and done the door drops and the door knocks. Actually, you were going to get back into we got to go here quick. You were going to get back into the open houses this year. My open houses, when I used to door knock, inviting the neighbors to the open house, I would pull a list of I usually pull range 3 to 5 years of expireds in the neighborhood that never went back on the market. And when I had that list with me, when I got to the house, if they answered the door, I'd say, hey, by the way, your house was listed 3 or 4 years ago, never sold. Whatever happened with that? Why didn't you sell? And it starts a dialogue. So you can actually turn your open house invitations into expired prospecting. I got a couple that way over the years. Worked pretty well. So
I'm gonna tie a couple things in here real quick before we have to go. It's just after 2 o'clock, so I want to keep everyone's time in mind. One of the things that I've heard before, and Brad, the reason I asked a question about do you do older or newer first, going back to that stat where 80% or 75% of people stop after 2 attempts, right? If you go back a week or 2 weeks and you look at an expired, either one of two things: people gave up on them and their phone has gone silent, or they're just really not interested in listing anymore and they're definitely pulling it off the market. So if you're really want to get back into trying to do expireds, my recommendation is going after the older ones first and kind of tweaking that script and getting comfortable being on the phone with them. And, I like what Brad said, ask a question, wait. I call it the pregnant pause. It's kind of like right before you go to a woman and go, are you pregnant? Yeah, no, you never ask that question. You always pause before you ask it. So that pregnant pause, wait for them to answer. It'll feel like 5 minutes went by before they answered, but it's really just a couple seconds. But use that pregnant pause to kind of get them to answer your questions. So
ask the questions and shut the F up, because whoever talks next loses. Yep. Vince uses nicer terms than I do.
All right. Thanks everyone for coming today. Chrissy, I did throw in the chat, if you're still on, I threw in the chat the link to the Google spreadsheet for that business. I did,
spreadsheet. And it came up with I need to request your access.
I'll share it with you then. I'll put it in.
You should have an email. You should have got an email.
Oh yeah, I'll send an email with it. That way it shares with her. Ryan, do you have something else too?
No, do you still have those scripts, Brad, that you use for FSBO or for expired?
Yeah. Do you want the old ones, or you want me to update them?
Update them. He'll update them for you, Ryan. Don't share old shit, Brad.
All right. I'll update them. Let me update them. I started making new ones a couple months ago after I went to a seminar where Phil Jones is speaking. So, and I just haven't finished them yet. So I'll crank them out for you as a Christmas present.
Oh, thank you.
I need a Christmas present too.
Yeah. So guys, what I'll do is I'll send out this recording on Wednesday. With the recording, I'll make sure you guys have access to this Google spreadsheet that I have along with Brad's scripts.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
You don't have a busy schedule, Brad. You're fine. Just kidding. All right.
Brad,
thanks, guys.
I see why your dog was so popular when he was popping up in the video there.
She's cute, isn't she?
Yeah.
Way cuter than me, which is good. So yeah, like I said, she'll be remembered. I won't. That's fine. So I tell you, post puppies, babies, and charity. It works every time. So.
That's funny.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Later, bye.
Bye.